I was just gonna introduce us now.
Okay, we'll just roll along with things.
Okay, so
Yeah.
welcome to episode four, is it? Yeah, four of a pretentious display of cynicism.
Mm.
I'm Foster, as always, here with Matt,
Hey,
and we're gonna discuss a few more albums this week. Um,
it should be pretty weird.
yeah,
Continuing with the tradition of like last week's comparison, which was probably like our diverse album comparison to date, and this one's probably continuing that. So
yeah.
I'm interested to see what Foster thought of the one I chose for this, 23 by Carbon-Based Lifeforms. I don't know. It should be a pretty interesting discussion.
Okay. Well, generally, I
I've got some things to say.
okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick point. I did like it,
Mm.
so it won't be a terrible discussion, I hope. Do you want to give like a quick background, I guess?
All right, so I guess we're doing mine first then.
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, so the album I picked for this week was 23 by Carbon-Based Lifeforms. This is the latest proper album released by this group, which is a duo from Sweden. And they play pretty much ambient, down tempo, chill out type music, whereas I don't know. This album in particular of theirs is I don't know. It's kind of breaking from a lot of their previous albums that they've done, which I don't know. Have been like they've been down tempo, but they've been a bit more kind of like groove or melody orientated. Whereas this, it's really pushing their sound into drone territory whilst incorporating a lot of their other elements in there. It's definitely a standout amongst their discography, and I don't know, they haven't really done much since then, apart from a soundtrack for a movie and
Ah,
some other demo stuff. But
that interests me, the movie
yeah,
soundtrack,
mm,
because this release is pretty
yeah.
movie
So like,
soundtrack like
I'll be
in
interested
ways.
to see where their stuff goes from here. But yeah, this album, it's kind of like a turning point compared to all of their stuff before this. So I don't know. I'll be interested to see like with their next proper release if they stick with this or take it in another direction or just kind of I guess go back to the sound of their previous albums.
Okay.
It's been like there's been like a bit of mixed reception from a lot of their listeners. Like I don't know, you get people who from like all the review boards I've been going through who love all their stuff no matter what, or they love all their previous stuff but they don't like this album,
Okay.
or they really like where this has gone. So
Ah,
I don't know. It's good to see them taking their sound somewhere new because their first three albums in particular, they kind of work as a set. Firstly, in that like the tracks at the end of each one, they kind of like feed into each other. So
mm-hmm.
it's kind of been called like their trilogy of albums, I guess. But they continue with like a fairly coherent, um, I don't know, sound and direction with them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Whereas this, boom, straight into a different ballpark essentially. So
yeah. I think in a way, a lot of these tracks are kind of standalone, but they do fit together well into like one album. Like there's not transitions between songs.
yeah, like it would be. Mm, sorry.
There's not transitions between
Yeah.
songs.
Yeah. So it would be a big mistake to kind of label this as a drone album, but I don't know. It's definitely headed into that territory, especially with a couple of tracks on this. However, like on a track by track basis,
Hmm.
there's a lot more going on as well, which is that's another reason I really like this, because they're kind of like pushing the structure of their songs in like a lot of different directions,
Yeah.
working lots of little subtle things in. So
I think that's one of the best ways to describe this album is subtle.
mm. And I think that's probably where a lot of the reception is divided in terms of this album, because it is so subtle in a lot of sections.
Yeah. And you're telling me to listen to this very carefully, turn the
Mm.
volume up, and it
Well,
is
that probably helped.
it does help.
Mm,
There's a lot of kind of stuff going on in the high end that's really fleeting, and
mm,
you can only just hear it if you pay attention.
mm. But it's all very like deliberately done and crafted. It's like
Yeah.
these little glimpses of things you'll just pick up, or they'll just kind of like fleet across in front of you as you're kind of consumed by this wall of pulsing sound in certain
Yeah.
tracks.
So the whole kind of really heavy synth pad stuff that
Mm,
goes on here is pretty much the focus of the album,
yeah,
and it's really like well crafted, as you said. It's there's a lot of motion in those synths, and you need that for like an ambient album.
yeah, because like there's other drone stuff I've checked out, and it's just horrible in some cases, because they'll just go for like like a very simple dumbed down melody thing, which it's just kind of like repeated on and off for 10 minutes,
Mm,
and it's just boring or soul crushing.
yeah,
Whereas it's like they managed to find that point where there's enough going on to keep you interested, and it just kind of pushes you along, and it's got that kind of direction to it. I don't
yeah.
know. It just, for me, I find more and more on this album every time I listen to it.
Hmm.
You know, it's like this kind of dark and mysterious thing, which just kind of like consumes you as you're listening to it. I don't know. Should we get down to track by track, or just keep working through it?
Um, either way is good.
What did you think of it in particular?
Um,
Been rambling for a bit here.
I guess like in a more specific track by track basis, it kind of builds up for the for the first four tracks, kind of increases like it gets less ambient,
Mm,
and by the fourth track, you have like a recognizable melody, and
yeah.
it's kind of almost veering into that down tempo territory.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I kind of look at it as having these two kind of like sections, I guess, in it. There's the first
mhm.
four tracks, which I don't know, verge into. It's like that ambienty creeping into down tempo
Yeah.
territory. Like track three, it has like, I think it's, I don't know, one of them spinning like the wheel of like a bike. It's clicking in the background.
Okay.
It's like this inkling of a beat in the background,
Right.
and then yeah, the melody in track four just kind of creeps in there,
Yeah.
and then it gets into the more kind of like drone focused section of the album around the middle with
Yeah.
Inertia and VLA.
Hmm.
Um,
Those.
what did you think of those in particular?
Um, I thought Inertia was really good. It had this like kind of meditative,
Yeah,
expansive feel to it. It's like very calming.
yeah,
VLA, it was kind of one of my less favorite tracks on the album, but I
yeah.
liked it nonetheless.
I would probably like. I still like it, and it is a bit different from Inertia too.
Yeah.
Um,
It's kind of cold, windy
yeah,
sound.
that's how I describe. It's like, I don't know. I like it and dislike it, but I don't know. I think it still deserves to be in there.
Yeah,
That
no, for
track,
sure.
I find it interesting in particular because it's actually a edited excerpt of the longer track of that,
Yeah, I was
which
wondering
goes
about
for an
that.
entire hour.
Ah,
So yeah, it's good they didn't include all of that.
probably good.
Hmm. Is it bad if I've listened to all of that?
Not really.
Hmm. Anyway, that kind of leaves you in this very kind of cold, meditative spot at the end of it, and I
Yeah.
find the seventh track kind of like brings you back out of it with this.
Yeah, it is a bit of a refresher in a weird way.
Yeah, like kind of like the I don't know those belly kind of
Yeah,
things and the
chimes.
chimes and the little bit of a melody and I don't know. And then track eight.
Yeah,
It's my
it's
favorite because it's just so haunting, and then I don't know, it just leaves you feeling like you're floating in an abyss at the end of the
ah,
album.
that's a good description. I liked it a lot. It has that movie soundtrack feel again. I was reminded of
Hmm.
like the like near the end of Inception. It
Yeah,
has kind of those similar sorts of themes by Hans Zimmer,
yeah.
and I really like that.
Hmm.
It is very haunting.
Hmm. I don't know. I just love all the little touches that are everywhere within this album.
Hmm.
Like where it's just like little pulsings of the like synth pads or
Yeah.
a couple of beats or like a bass pulse.
Yeah, I wasn't sure on some of the kind of more obvious blip type
Mm.
sounds.
There's kind of like yeah, there's some computery noises in there, and I think the theme with that is that it's like some sort of a space transmission or something traveling
Yeah.
through the emptiness. And
No, that's a definite theme.
I think it kind of works in there, but I don't know. Some of them it's like they're too obvious sometimes, or I don't know. I think for the most part, it's very subtly crafted.
Yeah.
It's perfectly done. So
No.
that would just be nitpicking, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Like in track one, I was they had this kind of like rubbery, acidic
Yeah,
uh bass or beeping thing going on, and it kind of gives it a focal point.
yeah,
I found like whereas
like
in track three, I thought it
yeah,
was a little jarring,
yeah,
but it is really nitpicky. Like that's the level we have to go down.
yeah. I don't know. Like I, yeah, I agree with that with track three because it's like I really like one and two, and then track three it's expanding in like a couple of different directions. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just find that kind of that rambling, incomprehensible voice at the start.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think it was like a little bit too in your face with the mix or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
But that's just nitpicking.
Yeah.
On the whole, it's like these consuming, expansive waves of just pulsing synths and stuff. And
Yeah. And
yeah, like
track.
unless you listen to it, like it's still just kind of uh there's like a lot going on and then not. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to analyze verbally in a sense.
Yeah. It's not ambient stuff is tough to pick apart a lot
Mm.
of the time.
And yeah, because it's like kind of crossing into this interesting territory between the down tempo and just kind of I don't know that drone stuff. Yeah, it makes it a bit harder to do comparisons,
Yeah.
especially.
Mhm. How did you feel about like you brought up earlier, the spacey sci-fi like alien transmission type theme to it?
Oh, I like that with this album because I don't know. Bearing that in mind, I think like as you're listening to it, it gives you like some sort of a visual theme
Yeah.
as you're listening. Like I don't know. I just get all these images of just yeah floating into the ether of space.
Right. No, I get like looking up at stars and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
all of that. And I don't know. All the different tracks they kind of like take you into different places. Like
Yeah.
um, there's inertia which just kind of leaves you in this haunting limbo. Whereas
Hmm.
Kensington Gardens, track 7, like I find that I don't know if you're going with the space transmission metaphor, you're kind of being sent out there. I don't know. It's like a little friendly memory of home type thing.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
Just before it kind of drifts into track 8. There's that complete encompassing melancholic loneliness.
Mm.
But I don't know. It's got like a nice somber feel to it. The eighth track,
Yeah,
it's not
it's
completely depressing. It's like fulfilling in a way.
yeah, it's like a kind of nostalgic final
Yeah.
tone.
So no, I find listening to this album. Yeah, I get to that. I'm like, oh, now I want to listen to it again.
Uh,
And then yeah, you've got to find another whole hour because it's one of those albums where I don't know. I think that's where like the conceptual arrangement of the whole thing works very well. It's one of those albums where it's like intended to be something you sit down and I guess listen to in that sense, as
yeah,
opposed to track by track basis. Although you could, especially with some of the tracks at the start, or I don't know, the drone tracks would be alright on their own, I guess. But
yeah. Like they're all self-contained, but obviously
yeah,
better as an album.
yeah, it just everything just kind of flows into each other and integrates, and it just becomes this I don't know sublime synthesis of everything. And I don't know. Once you listen to like the first two tracks, as you're just kind of like lying there listening to it, you just kind of get consumed by the rest of it.
Yeah, I my attention span isn't that good for these
Yeah.
sorts of things. So,
Okay.
like maybe in the like VLA stage, I'm kind of like losing focus, but of course, like track 8 brings it back
Yeah.
for me. But
I don't know.
still,
That's
that's
like the only thing I don't know. My only nitpick with VLA, it's like it's another drone track, which in itself isn't that bad, but it's kind of at that point where you need to kind of bring that kind of like closing thing in,
yeah.
which track 7 and 8 do. It's just I don't know, perhaps like 5 minutes too late.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But on a 66.5 minute album, um, yeah, that's just nitpicking.
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. What did you think of the mixing in particular of this? I think it's just amazing, especially with a lot of the low level synths in this.
Yeah, it's a nice change. They're really heavy on like sort of the mid to lower range, like a little
Yeah,
lower than what you would expect from like kind of the synth pads
yeah.
you see in a lot of ambient music, and that just has the whole wallop sound effect to it, and it's really mixed well overall. I didn't have too
Especially,
many problems with it.
I don't know. I just find just the way they'll build up a couple of tracks, like track 4 in particular,
Yeah,
where I don't know. It's like a lot of the evolution of the track is done through the mixing, as opposed to I guess what's kind of going on. I don't know in terms of the synths and the samples, although those are added. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, there's a couple of moments in track 4 where like I don't know, you think it's going on way, and suddenly there's this big rush of warm bass, and
yeah.
yeah,
Track 4 is good. Kind of. Ah, nice.
it's just such a dense album.
Yeah,
Like, it's profoundly subtle. Like, if you were just kind of giving this a cursory listen, you'd miss so much of it. But I don't know. It's just they craft such a thick sound with like all of those perfectly layered and kind of harmonized synths, and especially yeah, in the lower end of things. So I don't know. I think it's just a lot from their experience with the albums they've crafted over the years, and I don't know. It's just interesting to see their sound evolving
Yeah,
to such
I
like a new level with things.
yeah, I'm not too familiar with all of their other stuff, so just coming into this from an outside perspective, you can tell
Yeah.
there's a lot of like polish and experience here,
Hmm.
and that
I don't
the
know. If I was to describe the earlier stuff, it would be I don't know, a lot simpler. Like I don't know, kind of like driven by simple grooves with some kind of hooky synths.
right.
That's about it. Whereas this is like the all of these undertones of just different moods of broodingness and loneliness, and all these little subtle hints of I don't know different synth textures and samples.
Hmm.
I get chills every time I listen to the start of Inertia.
Ah,
It's got like these distorted howling dogs at the start of it, and this kind of like
yeah,
gurgling underwater noise. It's like I don't know, drowning in hell type feeling, and then it just kind of like I don't know, it just carries you along somehow to this kind of like smooth, peaceful. I don't know. It's just
that's
it's such a
funny.
such a profoundly subtle track.
Yeah, like I said, I had like imagery of like Himalayas and stuff,
Hmm.
kind of almost an Eastern feel to it. But yeah, one of my favorite tracks, I guess.
Hmm. Um, so apart from the nitpicking, any other negatives besides the length?
Um, Not really. I don't think this album personally like
Yeah,
spoke to me enough for it to be one of my favorites, but it's
yeah,
really solid and I have no problems at all with it. Besides those really nitpicky things about
yeah,
some of the like beeping noises or whatever.
yeah. No, I just like it because it's an evolutionary step in their discography. Um, I'm not so much of a fan of their earlier stuff, but also as yeah, that kind of like a drone-ish slash down tempo album. It's hard to find albums which occupy this space and which do it so well. So
Right.
that's one of the reasons I like this in particular.
Yeah, and like you said, it's accessible and you can listen to it in a lot of different ways on a bunch of different levels,
Yeah,
like attention to detail wise.
yeah, and there's just because it's just like so densely layered. There's so much to come back to each time because a lot of it will just go over your head or you'll forget bits and I don't know.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say?
I don't know. Perhaps we should compare it to the next one.
Hmm.
I don't know how that will work though.
Yeah, there's a few similarities, I guess, but not really.
Yes, with everything, but it's like last week.
Yeah.
All right, so
Um.
heading on to your pick for this week.
Yeah. So my pick of the week is Starfire by Jaga Jazzist. I'm gonna say Jaga Jazzist instead of Jaga Jazzist. Either one are correct, I
I don't think it
guess.
makes much of a difference, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you can say it however you want. So they released this album. I think it was the 2nd of July. So I was kind of surprised when I found out about it had just been released. Um, so they are a Norwegian experimental jazz band. Pretty large in the amount of members they have and have had in the past. I think there's like
Yes,
eight
they
current.
have past members is ridiculous.
Yeah, they have something like eight current members. And yeah, they kind of play a mix of jazz, rock, electronic, kind of a post rock structure a lot of times to their songs.
That's kind of how I would describe them as well, I think, based
Yeah.
on this album. Um,
So, do you have any previous experience with their music?
I've listened to a couple of tracks of theirs which I liked. I guess on a track by track basis. So I don't know. This is probably like the first whole album of theirs I've listened to as a
Okay.
whole
Yeah,
intensely, I guess.
I think.
So I don't know. Like I've based on I don't know you recommending them.
Hmm.
Kind of been wanting to expect a lot from this album, I guess.
Ah,
I don't know. This album doesn't really do much for me at all. So I don't know if that's just because of the amount of stuff they've released.
um,
Not sure where to go with things, or it's just come down to who they had at the time and maybe a lack of direction. You
yeah,
can completely agree with that, but I don't know. I wasn't blown away at the end of this.
that's probably something I would expect for a lot of
Yeah,
listeners, and that's what I've heard from a lot of reviewers and such,
yeah,
that they weren't blown away. And in my opinion, this is a pretty standard sounding release
yeah,
in terms of the overall structure. The main difference with this album to previous ones is the really aggressive um, synthesizers
yeah.
they've experimented with.
That was a bit of a standout on this. I didn't like them, but I don't know. Also, because I haven't listened to their other stuff, I
Yeah,
can't really compare that sound.
it's
Um,
it's interesting because they're not strangers to electronic music in general. They've kind of integrated their sound with synthesizers and stuff like that in the past, but
yeah.
they really pushed the sound in this one, and I'm a bit 50-50 on it. I think it
Yeah.
works in some respects, but in other
Well,
respects
it
it
does in
doesn't.
some cases, and yeah, I think what they do well on this album is that integration of the kind of free-flowing jazz type stuff with the, I guess, the more melody or beat-driven electronic stuff with a
Yeah.
bit of sampling and some synthesizer grooves in your face and stuff. I think they do that really well. It's just, I don't know, just like track by track, I guess the direction of where everything's going, and I don't know. There's like sections where a song kind of like grabbed me with a bit of like a hooky groove or something like that, and
Yeah.
then it just kind of kept repeating. It didn't really go anywhere, or
Yeah.
it just went completely over the top with lots of things going, but it just wasn't really working and kind of felt a bit chaotic.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess my like I like the start of the first track. I listened to that and I'm like, oh, this is sounding really good. I
Yeah,
like where this is going.
that's
And then
pretty typical of their stuff.
yeah, and then it's like I don't know. It just kind of lost it in terms of the composition department. In terms of I don't know, what's this building up to? Where's it going? There are like some grooves and things thrown in, but it just kind of felt a bit um, unfulfilling.
Yeah.
And
I
then
totally get that.
yeah,
Except I
um,
don't feel that way,
yeah,
really. I kind of I don't know. I guess I'm expecting not to be like blown away in that sense. It's
I
not.
don't know. Like if you're going into it thinking I'm going to listen to this and there's going to be all this cool stuff going on and I like that and it's cool. There's that on this album and that works. But I don't know, going into it like I like there to be a point to an album.
Right.
I don't know, some sort of an entry point and an exit point and I don't know, each track kind of shows you a different thing along the way, or it does things, or they explore things in some direction, or whatever. Or it could just be like a collection of improvisations, and I don't know, they each experiment with a different theme, and I don't know. There's bits of that on here, but in sections it feels like they're kind of like repeating certain grooves or something and not really evolving anywhere, or
Okay.
they're just kind of like throwing things in your face and seeing
Mm-hmm.
sticks, but nothing isn't. So
Yeah. You might like their 2005 album, What We Must, which is perhaps their most focused post-rock sounding album, which has a lot more direction
yeah,
than perhaps
well,
this and their last release.
well, that's a bit of a vibe I got with some tracks on this. The bad post-rock vibe, the sound for the sake of sound, but not really going anywhere type thing.
Right.
I think my favorite tracks might be 3 and 4 in terms of that they kind of stuck with a bit of a theme
Right.
and they went somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I like track 3 and it built up with this acoustic thing and then kind of got into like some electronic stuff and I don't know, it was just kind of fun at the end and it had that bit of a build up to like a crescendo type thing.
Right. Yeah, that
Uh,
one's a bit more straightforward.
And then 4 kind of had a bit of that. I think it's probably 5 minutes too long.
Ah, okay.
5 kind of starts out interesting, and I don't know. I'll give them props for that one because I think that's their most, I don't know, risky track on this. Whereas 1 and 2 kind of feel a bit more contained in where they're going with things.
Yeah,
Which,
I would say the same.
yeah.
Even for
Whereas,
them, it's outside the box.
but yeah, like 1 and 2, that's not a bad thing them doing that. But it's like if you're gonna do that, still take it somewhere with what you've limited yourself to. I just feel like they mucked around with things, kept it a little safe. I don't know, but I don't know. It's just coming down to composition, and they didn't really build up to anything more substantial than I guess like the grooves and stuff they were working in at the start of the track.
Right. Um,
I don't know. Track 1 is like you get these kind of like interesting grooves and stuff evolving towards the end of it, but it's I don't know if it's just like tempo or just like the choice of where to integrate things or what to bring in.
mm-hmm. Did
And
you
then
like
yeah,
that section with the kind of punchy chords and the synth
in
lines that
which track? Sorry.
track one?
Um, which section of the song? Like
Yeah.
towards the start?
It's in the middle, because that's kind of the point where I'm like, oh, so that's how this album is different to their previous ones.
I don't know. That one after about I don't know 3 minutes, I actually got bored of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
Whereas I don't know, track 5 interesting because they're mucking around with some different things, but I don't know. I think that's just an example of I don't know things going wrong on this album. It just feels like
Uh-huh.
chaos with the synths in there, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It starts off with like this nice atmosphere.
Hmm.
Gets going and stuff, and there's like I don't know, a bit of like an eastern feel to it with
Yeah, it's kind of ominous,
I don't know
washing waves of
sitar-y,
synth and
ebo-y
stuff.
type stuff.
Hmm.
And that's kind of good, and then there's like this horrible kind of kazooie sounding thing, this awful
Uh,
synth that's just kind of starts off
yeah,
about 2.5 minutes into it, and then it just descends into shit.
I have to kind of agree. There's like a bunch of the synths. I like I said, I'm mixed on it, and some of it sounds like cool and like distorted and processed, and it
Yeah.
adds some weird flavor to it. And other times it's like, you should have probably left this on like the last Death Grips album or something.
I don't know.
But like, have you
Like on
listened
the
to?
whole, I think they're all very good musicians, and there are some nice sections in this album. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't say it completely sucks. It's just I don't know. On the whole, it doesn't really accomplish more than the tracks, which I don't know are hit and miss when it
yeah,
comes to where they're going with things. So
I
I
can
don't know.
see that.
I can see, yeah, how you're divided in liking or disliking it because there's good things to take out of it, and yeah, there's also a lot of stuff to nitpick.
Yeah. In track 4, I think it is. It
Yeah,
might have been 4, but they they have a part where they kind of take out all of the extra synths and stuff, and it's
yeah.
just this really smooth section of like saxophone and keyboards and stuff, and it's
That's
all
one thing I like on that. Like they do strip things down sometimes, and yeah, there's that section with the sax kind of going, and it's all very smooth and everything, and then they kind of build up another groove with the electronic beats and something, and I don't know. It's probably around there that I actually started to enjoy the album.
okay.
It's good that that happened, but it's not good that that happened like I don't know half an hour into the album. But it's like, oh, okay, this it's got a nice groove and everything, and then I don't know. I like the sax outro to that track.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think if that was actually the end of the album, I would have liked it a lot better.
Ah.
Um, I don't know. Track 5, it's good that they kind of got that experimentation and things in there, and I don't know. I think it just might have been nice if there was a bit more of that in say tracks 1 or 2, for instance.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, like a bit more of that variation in sound, which I don't know, they've got the members to do that. It's just yeah, trying to balance that with yeah the some sort of level of cohesion with the tracks.
Right. I do think like I know you haven't listened to previous stuff, but with their last album, they kind of experimented within. I mean, they experimented from track to track,
Yeah,
but they were cohesive within the tracks. And
yeah,
this, they're kind of it's cohesive, or it's there's a lot of the same stuff going on in all of the tracks, but within them, they're kind of scattered, I
yeah.
think.
Like I'm not sure if it was track 2 or 4, but it kind of starts off with like this electronic groove and a melody,
Yeah.
and then they just kind of go all over the place and crazy for the rest of it, and then they bring that in at the end.
Hmm.
That's an alright thing to do. I just think, yeah, both those tracks they're over 12 minutes in length.
Yes.
You know, it's like if you've only got that kind of minute, 30 seconds or whatever at the start and the finish, linking that together, it's yeah, it just doesn't really flow. I feel.
Hmm.
I don't know. It just kind of like takes on a bit of an improv approach, but like without it kind of feeling like a natural evolution of the song itself. Like I don't know, especially when they suddenly drop everything off and they've just got like a synth playing, or
Hmm.
I don't know. It just feels like a lazy transition.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know. Like I want to like this album because there's sections where they just craft that kind of smooth, fun atmosphere very well. But
Hmm.
for me, it's just like they don't kind of sustain that or take it to somewhere else. Like
Right.
I think track 2, I don't know, they're just kind of like repeating the same groove for a bit, and kind of integrating things in, but it's not really evolving. And then where it does, it's just through throwing too much stuff in.
Hmm.
And then I don't know, they just dive somewhere else with it, almost out of abandonment. So
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of see it more as like fun and playful, kind of experimenting. It's
maybe
not
I
all
was thinking
perfect,
more
even in my
seriously.
eyes, but I like it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like it's one of those albums where I'm like, oh yeah, Foster will like this.
Yeah. And like again, it's not my favorite in their discography, I don't think. I don't
Yeah,
think it's their worst either, but it's kind of in the middle there.
yeah. I don't know. Like, I want to like it a lot more than I do because I see like a lot of potential for things on this album and like a lot of things which I do like. Especially in like I don't know the percussion department, and there's some nice little bass grooves going on in the background,
Yeah.
which I don't know you almost miss with the amount of crap going on in front of that. But I don't know. I just think there needs to be like I don't know a bit more control with the melody or structure. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
I don't.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
I'm just trying to like compare it to other stuff where I don't know things like they either have worked or they haven't. Like you know how crazy the bad plus will get in some sections of their songs.
Hmm.
Like things will just get all over the place, retarded. They'll just kind of be like the drummer will be smashing around for the sake of making noise,
Yeah.
without really paying any attention to beat or anything, and then they'll just go back to normal with their melody or their groove. It's just
Hmm.
I think there needs to be a bit more of an element of that, like a bit more of kind of control over where the tracks are going, and
Hmm.
I don't know, a bit more decisiveness in like what mood each part of the track is trying to convey, I guess, as
Hmm.
opposed to all over the place-ness. But I don't know if you're after an album which is it's kind of got like that garage all over the place playfulness. Well, I guess this album fulfills that. It's
Yeah.
just for me, it's like it's stuck in that ground where it doesn't know which way to go. If it should try to craft things a bit more linearly, or if it should just kind of stay with a bit more of an improv approach to things.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely lacks focus. It's more of an experimental effort than anything they've done
Yeah.
prior, I think. Lots of.
And I think there's some nice moments on the album where they find some cool sounds with things. Um, but yeah, it's a little hit and miss for me.
Yeah. Have you heard Square Pusher at all?
No.
Yeah, there's a lot of influence from his electronic albums, I think, on this record,
Okay.
which is good and bad in some ways.
All right.
Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Need to find more things to listen to.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have to say. I enjoyed it. Not perfect,
I don't know. I
though.
had I had fun on some sections, which is good that happened. Whereas I don't know, other times I was just kind of waiting for things to go somewhere or build up to something, or
Hmm.
I don't know.
All right.
Um, Mixing wise, it's all very well done. Like it's a fair. It's like what it's a perfectly crafted for whatever this is.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with it in that sense. I think it just comes down to some compositional elements and I don't know. So I kind of think maybe they need more like a couple, maybe like one or two lead instrumentalists to kind of take the focus on certain sections of things.
Hmm.
Um, and that's like something you'll see on big band albums. Like you'll say like I don't know the sax or the trumpet kind of taking the lead for a bit of everything, supporting that and everything. Whereas this, I don't. A lot of the time, it just feels like a bunch of supporting musicians improving things.
Okay. Yeah, I can see
And
that. I feel like
yeah,
that's not what I want from them, but I can see why you would want that.
mm, I don't know. Like, what if I'm listening to some sort of an improv performance, like I like that when it's improv, but it's like you're crafting something that still sticks together and goes somewhere, not
Yeah.
just kind of experimenting around and going, just, I don't know, just sound for the sake of sound. And that's what it feels like in certain sections of this. So,
Got it.
I don't know. That in the end, that can just come down to preference, really. So,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, yeah, probably my biggest irk with this is, yeah, just a bit lack of composition. There's there's no conceptual arrangement to this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it just comes down to what you want out of an album. If you just want something, yeah, experimenty, not too serious, yeah, this I'd recommend this, I guess.
Oh, you don't have to recommend it, but
But yeah, like if you want something a bit more focused on track by track composition and yeah, album composition and conceptualization and I don't know, direction, maybe
yeah.
not. I don't know, anything to add?
Not really. I pretty much said all I've wanted to say.
Mm, probably reiterated things too many times, but
That's all right.
I don't think it sucks. It's not my favorite out of anything, and ultimately, I think it was a bit forgettable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I might check out some of the earlier stuff, but
Yeah.
mm,
Again, for direction, what we must is like post rock style, and then a living room hush is kind of more traditional jazzy style.
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I'll probably check both of them out, just because I'm interested to see if I don't know. Maybe it's just particular band members they've had on this, which is a problem with it.
Maybe. I think most of the songwriting has like stayed the same
Yeah.
from like the founding members.
Do, which members do they have? I don't know. I guess I like the core members which have stuck with it.
Uh,
I guess like how many do they have?
I think like three or four. No, like five, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there is that section of a core element to it, but I just feel like they haven't. I don't know. Tracks one and two in particular. There's that control of them there, but I just feel like it doesn't go anywhere interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. Versus the last track, which it goes places, but it just feels like a chaotic mess as soon as the synth comes in and everything else starts going. And I don't know.
Hmm.
It's like it's trying to find that balance between having those nice groovy hooks and I don't know, a nice kind of like chilled out, relaxed or fun atmosphere, which they do achieve in sections of this. It's just yeah, I'd like it if they could release something which just sustained that for most of it. And
Right.
they've got some sections where they're doing some weirder things, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to like it more than I do, so I'll be interested in their next release. But I don't know. This hasn't been my favorite of anything this year.
Hmm. All
Um,
right.
anything else on that?
No, I'm pretty much done.
All right.
Uh,
Is it possible to compare? That is the question.
uh, they kind of have a
I think that's a pointless comparison.
yeah. Uh, hey Matt,
Yeah,
have you heard about the new Tesseract album?
I have. I'm excited.
I thought I'd bring that up because I'm kind of excited about it.
Especially after their last one, which was leagues ahead of everything else at the time.
Yeah, we'll definitely review that
Yeah, that
for
should be
sure.
fun. It'd be nice if any of the other progressive metal or genty bands put something out at the time.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on Uneven Structures album that was supposed to come out this year, but it's like being delayed a long time. It'll come out eventually, but
Yeah.
man,
Did you listen to Periphery stuff they put out?
yeah,
I did for a bit, and then I don't know. I just kind of didn't bother with a bit more of it. I don't
yeah.
know if I should feel bad or not.
Oh no, I listened to it once. I haven't come back to it yet, but I
Yeah.
will.
No, it's just I don't know if I'm just like bored with their stuff, or they just kind of haven't really gone anywhere with their latest stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
And
There's probably a lot of other stuff I need to check out too.
yeah, have you checked out new David Maxim Mikic?
I listened to like a track of that. I'm like, holy shit, this is the next thing I'm listening to.
Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't know if that'll be good or bad though, because his stuff can be a little all over the place sometimes.
yeah. Well, I think I want to review that for one of the weeks, so
Well, that do you want to do that for the next one, perhaps?
maybe it's a double EP,
Yeah.
so I'm like not sure if I should just wait for the next
Oh,
one.
we could do like I don't know, part one and part two or whatever. So
Yeah,
we review the first one, and then when the next one comes out,
we could
we
totally
review
do
that.
that. It'd probably be a long enough conversation
Mm.
with
Especially if we
it's
find
probably
something weird to compare it to.
yeah, it's like one album length, but
Yeah.
I think we can do that and that would be fun.
I don't know, like I think you could review like even a 30-minute EP in the time we have.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me
Test
too.
run should be good. Should be amazing when that comes out.
Yes. I'm excited.
Anything else we can add? We've got mixes coming up, so that's
Yeah,
awesome.
be sure to listen to that mix.
Yeah, we've got scheduling sorted for now, it seems. So we should be on track to I don't know, a good couple of months with things, it
Yes.
seems.
And be on time with the
Yeah,
episodes.
which is the main thing, and then we'll just get better at everything else.
Yes.
Yep, definitely. And on that note, I think we can end.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up.
Okay, so this has been a pretentious display of cynicism, episode 4.
Bye.
I guess we can cut that.